Hello and welcome back to the Heart of Truth podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, and I'm so excited to introduce to you today's guest, Julia of Soul Wisdom. She and I met on, yeah, I'm so excited for her to share all of her magic. But she and I met on an Egypt Priestess pilgrimage when I was deep in my Priestess of the Rose path. When I was getting initiated into that, I was guided very clearly to Egypt. And she and I connected even before we both arrived on the pilgrimage, as she lives in Switzerland, and I was feeling so drawn to Switzerland at that point as well, for reasons which I don't need to get into now. But we basically, there's just a lot that we resonate with. So it's been a really beautiful journey of witnessing and deepening as we've each followed our path. And right now, she is a sacred site travel guide, a host of the Sacred Travel podcast, which is an amazing podcast. So if you want to go check that out at some point, I highly recommend. And she is a Magdalene Rose priestess. So without further ado, welcome, Julia. Oh my goodness. It's such an honor to have you on. So, yeah, there's so much that we could get into, but what do you want to share first about yourself?
Well, thank you, Amanda, for having me. Hi, everyone. What do I want to do? What do I want to share first? What's very alive right now for me, and I guess we talked a little bit about that up front, is just how in this traveling to places or connecting to the earth and to sacred sites, that this medicine and like this long lost wisdom that is all in the earth is coming back.
Mhm.
And I mean, it couldn't be more present with everything that is popping up in Egypt right now and the structures that are being discovered, like
Yes.
under the pyramids and under
Hmm.
the Sphinx. How much more there is and has always been that we hadn't really access to because maybe our awareness, our consciousness level wouldn't allow it, but it's now
Yeah.
all coming back and it's all opening up.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it's just like this ever unfolding, ever weaving puzzle. I feel this treasure hunt that you and I have been on separately, but then also kind of like weaving together
Totally.
from time to time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I feel that it's always such divine timing, but the fact that we're recording this just days after that big public revelation of what's really underground there. It's like a lot of us have kind of known that there is a lot more to that complex than we can see and that we have been told is there. But and we learned a fair amount on our pilgrimage as well, but at the end of the day, without the proof, it's all conjecture. So it's just fascinating what is now being revealed to us, both tangibly but also consciousness wise. It's really, really beautiful. So I'm sure we could get into that. But you have been really deepening into this really fascinating subject of the Merkaba. And I would love for you to share more about that because I feel like I'm going to learn some really interesting stuff from you here on this episode about how that connects to all of this as well. So I would love for you to just kind of share with us all how that's all connecting for you right now.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, so I'm offering a travel immersive to Egypt in December, which is I call the initiation into the Merkaba grid, and it just came to me. The way that I conduct like my travel experiences is that I really sit down in meditation and like deep communion with the guides of the land. And for me, in Egypt, the Sphinx is one of them, as not just the guardian of the lands of Cam, but also a guardian of, let's say, the Akashic records of the soul of humanity, of the soul of the world, if you want to say so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was given this huge visual that basically, if you like know how the Merkaba looks like, it's the Star of David. It's this
Yep.
the two triangles, one facing up, one facing down in a 2D. And then if you take it to the 3D layer, it's like these two tetrahedrons that are interlinking, which are so symbolic of two polarities coming together. And it is also our natural energy field of the heart. And then if you extend it, like it's the natural energy field of a person, of you, me, of everybody. And the same is true for the earth. So the earth has this Merkaba field around it. And to me, I've been doing ever since, well, the two of us actually, yeah, stepped on that priestess path. I mean, the Merkaba is a shape of sacred geometry that is very much connected to the Magdalene Christ consciousness
Mm-hmm.
and to the teachings. And if you haven't done that, I highly recommend to just like practice sitting in this shape and meditating with it. It's so powerful because it really enforces your natural energy shielding and at the same time like amplifying your own frequency. And it's this connection that, I mean, on a personal level really deepens with your truth and going into what are the soul codings, like your own soul blueprint that is that lies dormant in a way. And you have to uncover through all the conditionings and everything. And then once we like unpack that and we achieve that state of the enlightened Merkaba, if you want to call it like that, you really like have your light body turned on. And that doesn't mean that we fall into forgetfulness again, but it's just like this natural radiance and almost like magnetic field that you have around yourself. And these personal layers also connect into this collective layer and that grid of the earth, and how we like through Gridwork, through working with the land, with codings of the lineage, can support to really feed in these light codings into certain anchor points on the planet that will then radiate out into this Merkaba of the earth, which then when you like really go from this higher perspective in the cosmos, we are just one of many, right? And so all it feels like all forces in the universe are relying on the earth and humanity really ascending in consciousness right now,
Mm-hmm.
so that we all can kind of like up level.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a little bit abstract, but we can go deeper into that. I just want to like leave it here. Does that
Yeah.
resonate? Does that make sense?
Oh, to me, totally. To me, that totally resonates. And if anybody in the audience, like it's not quite landing, it doesn't matter. You know, you'll get there if it calls to you, but just understand that it's just a connection point of energy. And there's a specific geometry that works through us, and that there's an actual architecture to the light body. We talk about our energy field and stuff like that. And, you know, it's not that you need to understand all the technicalities necessarily to start on the path, but then it does become a little bit helpful to anchor it in and understand that there's a geometry, there is a mathematical foundation to this ascension process, this biological ascension. And so it becomes actually scientific and practical. And I think that's what's so fascinating about doing the work that Julia does too, is because when you actually connect with the land, like you can feel it on a visceral level when you allow yourself to really just drop into your body and get out of your mind a little bit and into that heart space. You can feel the energy of the land, especially if you feel connected to it from a soul level, whether you had past lives or something like that. Um, So, or your ancient, actual blood lineage is from that land, it can be very powerful to return to those lands as well. So, yeah, I feel like, it's just, it all connects. Everything is connected, right? So, looking at it from this sacred geometry perspective is really powerful and profound. And it's just something that we can also feel when we tune into it, whether or not we're seeing geometry or understand it totally quite yet. Because, I didn't understand all the geometry when I went to Egypt and on a lot of my pilgrimages. Like maybe kind of knew about it a little bit, but I wasn't getting into technicalities at all. And there was still a lot of potency to what happened. So, and when I was younger, I shared this on Julia's podcast. I'm not going to get into a whole spiel, but I was traveling around the world, and I know my soul was guiding me to all these places. And it was before I was even awake, and I know that there was a reason for that, and I would just trust the call of my soul, and it just life would bring me in all these different directions, and so kind of getting into that foundational baseline, there's actual energetics encoded within us that connect to the earth is basically what that is all about. So I find it really fascinating that we're now getting into these specificities myself. Um, yeah. So I guess, like, from your perspective, because you've been doing this work and you have this podcast where you interview all these people, can you just share, like, how the grid of the planet plays into our personal evolution and activation, and what kind of things like people experience when they go to these sacred sites or these ley lines or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm just like tuning in to see where yeah, I want to go because there's so much to share.
Yes.
I feel, first of all, I mean, it's really about remembering that we are part of nature and that we are part of the earth, that we
Mhm.
are earth, right? So we
Yeah.
are all of the elements, and we are
Mhm.
not separate. And that understanding, and also how feeling, like coming from, as you said, like this felt perspective of, just if I spend a good day out in nature, what does that do to me? Like, how do I feel? How does it affect my nervous system? Which is completely different than when just, yeah, sitting inside the entire day in front of your computer. And just understanding how the energy field also of touching the earth, of touching a tree, of like hearing the birds sing, maybe sitting by a body of water, how that really affects your entire being in a way. And then there is these, what are maybe called, or having the tagline as, the sacred sites, which are mostly sites that are specifically really built on these nodes, on this powerful nodes that are already existing. And so you can look at it as maybe like a map, such as your body has meridians. There is ley lines. It's not the longitude and latitude, the measurements that are given to us on the maps. That's kind of like another thing, but it's like energetic lines that are
Yeah.
running through the globe. Or if you look at like this emoji with this globe with the meridians, that's always a favorite
Oh,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And so there is this electromagnetic field that holds the Earth in place with the other planets, and in its place with the universe. So there is this energy that comes out from the Earth that is already very potent and powerful at certain spots, and then there is that's creating that field, that vortex, which is then kind of like acting as a transmitter or sender, where actually we communicate with other planets, with other beings, with other forms of consciousness in the universe. And a lot of these ancient civilizations did is they built certain structures to harness these energies. So whether this was a temple or a megalithic site or a cathedral or church, it's nothing else than what you said, Amanda. Like, it's geometry and measurements in place in a very, very highly sophisticated way, knowing how to harness these energies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's again like coming back to, you don't have to know about all of these things, but if you just like step into a medieval church or cathedral, like there is this, no matter if you are religious or not, there is like this humbleness and this sense of like, oh my goodness, there is something that is so much greater than me, and I'm part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Exactly.
that's because there is this potent energy that is coming from the earth, and that is usually also like it's a spot where these the energies collide in a way. So again, it might be one of these, yeah, points of the Merkaba field. And
Mm-hmm.
then the earth has also chakras. So just as we in our body have a chakra system where certain, I want to say like archetypal or primordial um, energy types that we can access that are stored in our body, this is also what there are certain points on the earth where these energies are anchored in. And so Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
for example, is the throat chakra. So no matter you are you're having these, we're talking about Egypt, and so we go like, ooh, okay, there is something like happening in my throat here.
Like literally. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really quite fascinating when because you don't have to be on the land to be connecting to the frequency of it. I also want to presence that because we are at a soul level connected, but if you have ever gone to the land, like then you have activated something in your DNA blueprint, your coding, your soul template, however you want to look at it. And so, excuse me. I have been there actually twice in my life, and I wasn't like seeking it out in either case. Interestingly, it just flowed, right? So it's like, okay, there was absolutely a reason my soul was meant to spend time on those lands. And in both cases, it was actually about 3 weeks total. One time it was the Sinai Peninsula, a little bit more. But yeah, so, I spent a decent chunk of time in those lands. And so, like, there was actual stuff for me to pick up there. And I'm probably still connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes both ways as far as, there could be like past life wounds and stuff to transmute and integrate to like reclaim those aspects of self, but there's also so many gifts held within that as well, and soul codes and activations will come through, so it's just really really powerful. But yeah, thank you for also just presencing like just nature itself is its own medicine. Like it doesn't have to be overly complicated either. And I love what you were saying about the, excuse me, the cathedrals. um, wow, yeah, my throat is really, really active this morning. Um, yeah, I'll just like share really quickly. I've been going through a deep throat chakra activation and upgrade because I just recorded my audiobook, and that was a whole other
Oh
thing.
yes, I
And this
can
happened in the
imagine.
previous episode that I recorded as well. So I was like, what is happening? It's not happening like when I've been doing this recording for a while, so it's just really interesting. It's like a whole portal that I'm in right now. And now we're talking about Egypt with the pyramids. So anyway, the cathedrals, yeah, I like there are the geometry of the cathedrals is just what I wanted to share there to kind of bring it back. It's like, yes, it's simple, and there's a lot of specific geometry they used in the construction of those buildings, and the rose glass, what do we call those? The
The rose
windows.
windows.
Yeah, the rose. And so when you look at those, there's actual, it looks like the cymatics and stuff like that. Like it's just so beautiful. These stained glass windows, the circular ones, there's really specific patterning and geometry in those as well. Sacred geometry that kind of looks like a rose or whatever. And it's just really beautiful. But they all have this very specific, I'm talking about the old world huge cathedrals. They have this very specific architecture that is meant to actually help us access higher frequencies and levels of consciousness to help activate the light body. There's a real specific process to that. So again, it's like it's simple, and there's actual so much geometry and math and really potent science and everything guiding this process as well. And so that's where I really like to get into myself personally, is just how this is a practical process for us all, and there's a real science underlying it. It's not just this woo woo, soul travel and ascension, kind of, it seems a little woo woo to a lot of people, but it's very deep and profound.
I feel the great thing about this path of consciousness expansion is that you can access it from both ways, and this is
Yeah.
exactly coming back to the Merkaba, because this triangular shape, it's actually symbolizing, if we like tie it back to the rose path and the Christ, Sophia Christ consciousness, it's these two initiatory ways that you can come from. And like one is really the top down, like from your crown into your body. And this is very often what I call like the path of Athena, because it's this wisdom. It's really
Mm-hmm.
this we are craving for knowledge, we are craving for proof in a way. So that's
Yeah.
all where like we go and read about stuff, we
Mm-hmm.
just do research, we go down every rabbit hole, any morsel that we can find about, maybe in this case, ancient civilization or sacred geometry, and like tie it together. And then there is the path of like this initiation from basically from the sacral, or even like from the base that goes up, and
Mm-hmm.
both of them meet in the heart. And so I mean, it's just beautiful also because your podcast has this it has it in the name and has it in the visual and everything, but that's where really all both of these paths collapse, and this is where you can come into your 0 point, and
Mm-hmm.
like the scale of Ma'ats, where the heart is weighed against the feather, and it's like, is this your truth, and how light is the truth, and
Mm-hmm.
there is no right or wrong, and you can come from both sides.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for that really beautiful description and visual as well, and for bringing in that scale, the heart of Mott. So, yeah, for anybody who's not familiar, just really quickly, this is the scale where somebody who's passed on, their soul is measured. They go through the underworld, and their soul is measured, the heart against a feather. So it's like the quality of how they lived their life, I suppose you could say, is held within the heart. It's like the heart of truth. I never thought of it that way, actually. But it's so they weigh the heart against the feather. Is the heart as light as a feather? And, it's not, I don't want it to sound like, from a space of sin, but it's from a space of righteousness. And have you actually, followed the path of God, of Christ, of divinity, whatever you want to call it, right? It's like coming into self mastery, I feel, is also, it's transmuting, because sin means to miss the mark. So have you integrated your soul lessons, and have you integrated the wounding and the pain and the trauma and stuff like that? And so have you basically then become a vessel to remember God's love, is what's coming through with that. And that's actually, that scale of the heart and the feather is what got me onto the priestess path, actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was, that's again a whole other story for another time, but it's got really profound meaning when you really get into it. So thank you for bringing this back to the heart of truth. The whole name of the podcast. Yeah. So I guess, having said that, what got you onto this path yourself?
That it's such a huge question. And I've, I mean, no, honestly, and I actually thought about it because mm, it's something that I've kind of like always known and always done and felt so natural to me.
Mm,
And maybe also as just a little reminder, when you're listening to this, so many times, like we already know, and especially
yeah.
when we are children and we are at this very young age, like you know. And even though it might not be that same consciousness level, or it might not be, yeah, you might not have gone through like sophisticated initiations or whatever, it doesn't matter. And what I retrospectively notice that I kind of like always blamed it on my Sagittarius sun sign, that like I love to travel, like I love to explore, I love to
Yeah.
find out about, yeah, everything and anything. So that was always, I've loved traveling. I loved, yeah, just immersing myself in ancient cultures and reading about them and roaming um, old ruins. Whenever we, like, even with my parents, went to the Mediterranean for holidays.
Mm,
And then as I grew older, there was stuff that would happen to me when I traveled, and like stuff where you're like, okay, maybe this is, it's not normal or it's not natural.
mm.
Up to a point where my family was quite worried because they were like, "You sure you want to leave? Like every time you go, something like weird happens." And it was only later that I actually realized that every time I went somewhere, it was really the land that was initiating me into
Mm,
a deeper truth.
mm.
But as I say, like back then, I didn't fully understand it. I just like,
Sure.
okay, I went with the flow,
Right.
and it was definitely like that the pilgrimage where we met in Egypt,
Mm,
where so many things changed for me, and where I
mm,
understood that when you travel to these sacred sites,
mm,
the narrative changes, because like we're being told that the pyramids are tombs, and we are like being told stuff about many things. But then when you actually go there and you experience the energy in your own body, it's like there is no way that what's been said could ever be true.
right.
And it's such a visceral feeling, like in your body, you just know. And it's hard to explain. And again, like what you said earlier, sometimes it has this woo-woo touch, but actually no, because like I let it run through my scale, and I just know. I can't prove it. I
Hmm.
don't know, but I know. And
Yeah.
so I just want to also encourage everybody to really, really come back and claim your own intuition and like claim
Yeah.
your own senses, because we've been told so many times that we always have to rely on these outer experts. And then there is these, almost like the separation um of different professions to a point where it was perfectionized, but it was totally disconnected
Mm,
from source, from consciousness. And I just want to bring in, last fall, I had the amazing opportunity to travel to the Cook Islands. And I met an elder from there, and he took me to some of the very, very ancient stone circles there.
mm,
And he was a geologist and an archaeologist. And for him, there wasn't any question that his profession and like what he did was disconnected from source, was disconnected from God. Because when he would go and like dig up stuff out of the earth, he would go and commune and like ask the spirits and the elements for permission
mm.
to do that. And that's
Yep.
a point that we have lost, like whether this is in medicine or, yeah, all of these professions that have
Mm,
been separated. But when you go back to the actual core and say like, okay, what is this? Nothing is ever separate from source. you are not separate from source. So how can
Yeah.
you link this back?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, there's so much in what you just said. Yeah. Yeah, I discussed that in my book actually about, the expertise and authority coming from outside of ourselves has been a huge part of this paradigm of separation. We've been taught to outsource our expertise to the experts, to the authorities, to the religious leaders, to the politicians, what have you, right? And look at the collective mess we're in now. It hasn't really worked very well for us, just kind of across the spectrum. Every single arena of our modern society, everything has been siloed. That's another term I use for it. It's like these silos of expertise. And especially you can see that in medicine, right? They look at one issue as its own thing, and the doctors, are very specialized in their one specific path within medicine, and they don't see the whole system the same way a holistic doctor would. And it's obviously not working. It's especially for the chronic conditions, I speak more from the chronic perspective, but with all of that. At the end of the day, it's true for every field, and we see this very much so with the land, and we have become just so disconnected from it. And then it gets into archaeology and whatnot, and we can see that these narratives around the pyramids are just very disconnected from truth. I mean, they can't let go of the official narrative because it just wipes out the official religion of Egypt. Like, those religious narratives of the earth being 6,000, God created the earth 6,000 years ago, right? Cannot be true if the pyramids and the Sphinx are 12, 13,000 years old, whatever they are. The Sphinx, there's water erosion on it, and there's a lot of archaeological evidence that is not integrated into the narrative, but very practical evidence that suggests it's far, far older than our current narrative allows for. So, yeah, as you're saying, like it's just when you go there, though, it's very much this out of the head into the heart experience. Your feet are connecting to the land, and the land holds the code, it holds the truth, it holds the history and the memories and all of it. So yeah, it's just really, really fascinating to arrive at the place and then see that there's so much more than you ever realized. Um, and I in the back of my mind, I keep going to the south of France, maybe just because there's a lot there too with the Magdalene Priestess and all of that. But I also was just guided to watch because I don't watch too much mainstream stuff. But occasionally, I'm they're like, go on Prime, or go on Netflix or whatever. And I happen to see this thing that's leaving. Prime in a matter of days, and it's called The Labyrinth, and it was about the Grail.
I saw it.
Did you see it? So you know what I'm
Well,
talking
I didn't
about.
watch it, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I have to say, and I've been to the south of France. I went on a Mary Magdalene pilgrimage. And I lived in France for 6 months when I was really young in Paris for study abroad. So I have some connections there. But this series, it was like a two-part mini series, and I like there was one scene where it brought so much up for me, and I was just like, whoa, this is intense. And it's like it felt like a deep memory being brought up to the surface. And I wasn't physically there, but it was very connected to land that I've been on. But it's like lands that I feel my soul is very connected to. And there's a lot of, think about the Crusades and it was about the persecution of the Cathars. So there's a lot there. So yeah, I don't even know precisely what segue, but I feel like I want to give you this transition into the south of France.
Yeah. So let me just like once again pause
Yeah.
and feel what wants to be spoken. Um, I mean, I guess first of all, overall, I want to say that what I'm feeling is that the reason why so many of what I call sacred site medicine, why these sites are opening up, or why these sites might be present, for maybe you who are listening, who are watching this, and just like pay attention also about synchronicities, where you, so whenever I hear like stuff popping up 3 times at least, then I pay attention. I'm like, oh, okay, there's something here.
Yeah.
For me, that's been Morocco recently. So
oh
Morocco
yes.
and Peru. But anyway, so I feel that these sites are really popping up because there is a consciousness that was seeded, that was planted, that was stored in the earth to be really safeguarded, whether that was stone, mineral, or water, or even just like these, etheric walls that also we speak about under the Sphinx, or in the caves. And now that we as humans are literally like getting to the point where we are ready to have this consciousness level to be working with these codes in a way that we don't fall into self-destruction again, but pick it up and is like, okay, this is what really propels us forward. I feel it's like these code carriers, whether female or male, kind of like step up, these priestesses, this sisters and brothers who in whatever way have been safeguarding knowledge, safeguarding wisdom, but are now really ready to bring this sacred wisdom and these sacred teachings back, because it is also safe to express ourselves, to be seen, and like practicing this again, because a lot of the stuff like needed to go underground in the last 2,000 years to just be safe, but it's still there. And so there is this Magdalene thread. Like if we look what is happening in the Middle East, there is so much, like ever since I can think of, that there has been, it's been a zone of war. And there's a lot more, again, to these political layers, and I don't want to go into this, but it's also, the only thing that I want to say to that is like, seeing and acknowledging for yourself where you are buying internally and also externally into separation consciousness. It's not about the this is the victim, this is the perpetrator. It's like really, again, like placing the Merkaba in your heart. It's both. It's always both. And how can we come into this unity? And so Mary Magdalene was from there. Like if we go back in history 2,000 years ago, this whole scene about Magdalene and Christ and Yeshua, that was, I want to say, like one of the biggest divinely orchestrated big showdowns in humanity's history.
Showdown. I've never heard it referred to as that, but you're right.
It played out on these lands. And so for sure, there is a lot on these lands, also a lot, if we go to like Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, that we can't even access right now. And for like my heart, of course it bleeds when I see like the people, but it also bleeds when I see all of these like temples and these structures being bombed, where I feel like this is where like the wisdom lies. So we need to safeguard and retrieve that knowledge. And so that thread with this lineage and Mary Magdalene, and also Yeshua and Mother Mary, and like all the other Marys that came with them, they were like these highly initiated beings. It wasn't just like some random dude and girl that met and like roamed the earth. Like they were deliberately placed. They were deliberately placed from higher dimensions. I personally believe from the Pleiades and maybe Arcturus, but whatever, to really play out this separation game, and then to plant this consciousness into the earth for us to now retrieve these codings. And So Mary Magdalene, and alongside with many other of the congregation, they after they needed to flee from the Holy Land. They went to Egypt, and they also went to the south of France. And there is a lot of like these holy mountains, holy caves, and again, a very very special geometry in the land that it's not a Merkaba, but it's a pentagram,
Mm-hmm.
where these where these energies are anchored. And then with the Cathars, this was basically the congregation that took on the teachings of the heart, these unity teachings. And the way that I see it is whenever I lead people to either on a pilgrimage or on that sacred travel experience, for me this is always like highly transformational experiences, because what happens is there is an outer journey. So we visit these places, but what happens is that there is these codes that are kind of like unleashed, and you open up your entire resonance field, you open up your cells, your heart, your third eye to these codings, and there is like this merging of the field that happens, so that it's a remembrance inside. And so the pilgrimage and the path, the journey that you walk on the outer, what's happening, what's presenting to you, is always only a mirror of what is actually happening inside.
Mm, yes, yes. You explain that so beautifully, so beautifully. It's like that resonance of the outer and the inner fields merging, however you phrase that just now as well. That just really felt to me like it was like, yes, that's exactly how it works. And yeah, it's very powerful when you actually begin to walk that path and connect with those lands, because you're really connecting with an essence, an aspect of yourself that has been forgotten. So, yeah. Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like again coming back to the Merkaba, to me the consciousness, and yes, Mary Magdalene, of course, like she was flesh and blood, but what she actually is to me is this consciousness, and it's this energy, this vibration that
Hmm.
lives inside of you, just as also Yeshua, the Christ codes, they live
Yeah.
inside of you. And it's this again like this merger of that sacred union inside, that when you retrieve these codings and you come to that understanding, it just opens a lot of new pathways within, like literally no, it's not new pathways, because I think that we cannot create new pathways in our brain, but it's like a remembrance, and we can override the ones that were running for a long time. But it's
Mm.
like this remembrance of what you truly are and what your soul truly holds. um, and also that the expression in the time now is safe to really bring that out and bring that forward.
Yes, yes. I think that's such a key point right now, because there has been so much persecution over the last 2000 years, and you have mentioned that a couple times. So thank you for bringing that back, because it's, it is safe. It might not feel totally safe for everybody at certain points, because it feels very vulnerable when this stuff comes up. But because there was that history. But now, this time on the planet, like we are, the light has already won, and we are here to return that, to resurrect these teachings and these blueprints. I always look at it as like they seeded the blueprint into the planet for this time, for they knew that it was not going to happen then. Like they knew what their role was, to
Oh
seed
yes.
this Christ consciousness back into the planet, and this divine union coding, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, seeding that divine union blueprint back into the planet, and birthing the holy child, this grail union path. And it's like encoded in the lands, but it's also encoded within us. So yeah, it's very profound what they did, and it's also profound what we are here to do. And it's just really quite incredible and humbling when you recognize that. And then it becomes a true path of devotion. And this is what I love about, the priestess path and being drawn to these lands, because you realize it is so much bigger than you. Because there's just so much that you feel so small, but then also you remember how powerful you are at the same time when you connect.
Totally. And, I feel for many of us, it really starts through a personal journey or like personal access points that we have. And again, like I want to encourage everybody who is listening to this, because sacred service doesn't have to come in super big. I work with a lot of women, and they feel quite overwhelmed, even like with
Mm.
the title priestess. Um, but
True.
it's in your mothering, it's in your showing up to your partner, to your
Mhm.
friends, it's in how you show up to your work. All of these very mundane tasks in your life, what is the presence that you give to it, what is
Mhm.
the devotion, the heart that you pour into that, so it doesn't have to be like
Yeah.
I'm this huge leader, this and that. It's
Mhm.
really more about the energetic impact that you have. So you're not going to be known for how much money you make, but you're going to be known for the energy that you emanate, and if people feel safe and with
Mhm.
you.
I love that. It's 11:11 here.
Yay!
Yeah, yeah, and that's such an important point too. And I have spoken into that at various points. It's like, there is no role too small to bring love into it. The waitress, the grocery store clerk who brings a smile to people's faces. That is playing a beautiful role right now in humanity, because humanity needs a little bit more joy and love in their life. So, and if you can give appreciation to those people who, kind of may be forgotten in the background a lot of the time, right? It can be those really small acts that have a ripple effect, a ripple impact. And, I feel the role of mothering, honestly, is a very powerful one too. And, because it's like, how are we raising the next generation? So, even if like whoever's listening, they feel like they're just a mom, or they're just a waitress, or whatever the heck you're doing, or just a school teacher. No, those are really powerful roles. Those you can create a really powerful impact in whatever role you're in. So, trust, and at the same time, if you're being called to go big, trust that too. It's like, we all do have our different codings and blueprints and stuff like that. And sometimes stepping into it can bring a lot of fear, and we're meant to move through that. So it goes both ways. And, your big impact doesn't have to be global either. It can still be a big impact in the community in which you reside. So, yeah, there's just so many different layers. We all have our unique coding and blueprint to bring back to the planet. And, it's like that's something that I was feeling earlier in the episode with, and you brought it back to the elemental aspect. It's like we all have a coding and a blueprint that is unique to us, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's like connected to Egypt or the South France or anything like that. But it can be connected to the trees. It can be connected to the water. So yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that in the way that I really want to, but it's like we have unique coding and blueprint, and to just like trust that, I think, is where I'm really trying to go with that energy, because there's just so much that needs to be restored on the planet right now.
Totally. And the way that I see it is also like we all form this, if we come back to these meridians, we form this global network of light. And so you can be just like one light bulb in this entire network. And then when you spread the light and when you spread the joy, it's like it sparks over to the next one and the next one. And that's how I see like this entire globe, with all of these illuminated light bulbs.
I love that. I look at it like the diamond nodes, like the web,
Yes.
and I'm laughing because the other episode that I just recorded, she brought up the exact same visual.
Well, there you go. There
And
you
it's like
go.
I have this visual as well, and it's just funny that you're now bringing it up. It's like we're all see, and I think this is the exact point. Like we're all connected to it. Once we reach this certain level of initiation and consciousness, and whatever you want to, whatever path you're walking. And if this is the first time you're hearing it, well, here you go. Like we're all little pillars of light connected to this giant beautiful web of consciousness. Anchoring it into the planet is how I like to look at it.
Totally. And there was something that I wanted to say. It just slipped me. Or maybe it will come back.
Oh, yeah. Web of consciousness, global grid. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So, I just want to leave it to you right now. What else do you want to share with the audience in this conversation? Like what's really coming to the fore for you beyond the Merkaba or, connected to certain lands?
I want to encourage everybody, if you feel called to a certain land, to travel somewhere, or maybe just to like spend time by your favorite tree in the forest, or spend time by that stream behind your house, whatever that is, but go, because there is a calling, there is like a reciprocity, there is an energy from this spot in nature, or maybe it is a stone circle, or whatever, a church that is calling you, and that is like reaching out its consciousness to you, because there is certain work to be done. And again, like we haven't spoken about that whole thing of grid work, and also I don't want to overcomplicate it. I just want to mention a dear friend of mine, and she at one point, she's so sweet. She confessed to me that she was like, Julia, I think you're the only person that I can tell this. So whenever I'm on my walk with my dog, like I'm asked to pick up stones and like to put them somewhere else in the woods, or I'm asked to pick up leaves and then bring them somewhere else. And
Mm.
do you think I'm crazy? And I'm like, nope,
Nope.
nope. I
Nope.
think you're doing a very important job. This is the beginning of good work. She's
Yeah.
like, you're sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. Just trust it.
I'm not
Continue.
crazy. Yeah.
And or for me, for example, it's water and crystals. So I'm collecting water from different sacred sources, and I'm being
Mm-hmm.
told to merge them and match them with other bodies of water, so that the
Mm-hmm.
consciousness of the waters can connect, and just like the flow comes in again. So
Mm.
whatever you are internally and guided to do, and your intuition tells you, I mean, as long as it hurts nobody and it doesn't hurt the environment, no
Right.
littering, just just do it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And allow yourself to really express and go into this exploration of what is sacred service.
Mm, I love that. Yeah. What is sacred service? What does that look like? It can look like so many different things. Yeah. And I love that simple visual of picking up the rocks and the leaves and moving them. It reminded me immediately of my niece, my four-year-old niece, who always collects things on her walks. She's always picking stuff up from nature and wanting to bring them back with her and stuff like that. And it's like, we see it as like a silly little kid thing, but these little kids are very connected. She's very connected to unicorns and it's obviously a little girl thing to be interested in unicorns and princesses and fairies and whatnot. But I'm like, no, there's an aspect of her that's actually connecting to that and
Oh yes.
actually knows that, so it's like, allow yourself. So it's kind of coming through. It's like allow yourself to be that little kid again and just follow that spark. What would you have done when you were a kid? You would have just gone off and fulfilled that whim of picking up that rock or that stone. I want to go over here, and you do it, right? And now
Yes.
and now as adults, it's like, I want to go there, hop on the plane and go. Yeah, yeah, I love that. And yeah, I mean, grid work is a whole other subject, but it's something that I have been getting into myself in a more very in-depth capacity. It's like one thing to travel and like go to these places, and you can absolutely do really intense grid work missions in that way as well, but you can also do them remotely. And I've been actually working with the land on a very, very deep level. Like, it can get wonky in there actually, because it holds gifts and codes, but there's also a lot that has been done to the land to keep us separated from these codes. So
Mm.
yeah, it goes both ways on that level. So yeah, I just feel like there's so much that can come through with that, and it can be just simply stepping foot on the land and things get activated within you, working with the elements and things like that. So yeah, there's so much there. So now you mentioned you have a trip coming up in Egypt. There's another one that's coming up for you as well, correct?
Yeah, I actually have three this year,
Very beautiful.
throughout the entire year. So the first one is going to be in May, to the south of France. So we are journeying in the footsteps of Mary Magdalene. So we'll be traversing all around her holy mountains with the waters, the caves. And that's it's a very special one. I'm co-guiding that with another sister. Her name is Yana. And it's
Mm.
also the first time that we are combining this with the Magdalene Reiki initiation. So
Mm.
I'm very excited about that one. So it's really like speaking to this inner and outer journey.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then I have a solstice retreat coming up in June. And it's called Valley of the Light. I know we've been speaking about that place offline for quite a while. I
Yeah.
definitely feel you there at one point. It's got beautiful light codes coming in, and it's
Mm.
another like thread that I just want to weave in is with the trips that I'm doing. Um, I always find myself in these Magdalene places or wherever I go, and this is really like a remote mountain village in
Mm.
Switzerland.
Yeah.
And of course, there is like several spots dedicated to the rose lineage, and there's a dragon
Hmm.
rock pool where we bathe in,
Ah,
and
that's amazing.
it's just interesting also to see how these codings always find you.
Mm.
Yeah, and that is dedicated to leadership, or more, I want to say more the way of how you really want to create impact in your life. So what we spoke
Hmm.
about earlier, it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be I am a big leader in corporate, but
Hmm.
how do I really embody this, what I call is like the sovereign queen, or these
Mm.
solar codes of the
Yeah.
feminine, who are asking us now to step forward, because it is our time to really like
Mm.
um, run a new paradigm that is not functioning on power over, but it's power with. And that's what the feminine does. It's all about this network that we spoke about, these
Hmm.
connections, because it's the nourishment that we want to create for
Yeah.
everything and everybody.
Hmm.
So that's what we're going to be focusing on there. And then in
Beautiful.
December, there is the trip to Egypt. And that's a lot of work with the pyramids and with the Akashic record fields. There was apart from like let's say one of the more obvious spots, maybe like the Sphinx and a private ceremony in the Great Pyramid. We are also going to be visiting the Valley of the Whales, and it's such a significant place. I mean, imagine you are in the middle of the desert, and it's all of these whale skeletons, and like skeletons from like times past, when you really,
Wow.
really know, okay, what is that making in the desert? Like this must have been a huge
Mm.
ocean at some time.
Wow. That's
And
crazy.
It is crazy. And I mean, as yeah, we know, or you might know, also the whales play a very, very crucial role in the evolution of the entire planet, and like the codes and the consciousness that they hold. Of course, like still the whales that are alive in our waters and the oceans, but also what is stored there. And so yeah, that's a bit more of a Gridwork mission, I want to say. But I'm excited for that, because I feel that, you know, with whatever intention you want to go, just like connecting with your personal Merkaba field and activating that field, when we tune on that star, that tetrahedron stargate, because we are stargates, then this is enough to like ripple out into the field. So yeah, if anybody feels intrigued, please drop me a message, or hop on a call with me. I'm happy to explore.
Yes, yes. And all of her information will be down below in the description and show notes. So you can just click the links and visit her there. And also Soul Wisdom. That's your exact Instagram handle, or because I know
the Instagram handle is soul_wisdom_by Julia.
Yes, I was like, I feel like your name is actually in the Instagram. In my mind, I was like, what is it? Yeah. It's you'll probably be able to find her if you just search, but everything will be linked. We'll make it easy for you guys. But yeah, her trips, she's very, very tapped in, tuned in, and very powerful and magical. So if you feel the call, definitely check out those retreats. So yeah, gosh, this has been such a wonderful conversation, and I feel like there's a lot more. I was like, we could talk about that. We could talk about that. But we'll keep it there for today, and perhaps there will be another one. Gosh, because even a couple of things opened up toward the end that I was like, okay, let's reel it in. But yeah, I mean, these journeys to these lands, like those are going to be three very, very powerful experiences. I can attest to south of France and Egypt myself, although I haven't been to that Valley of the Whales. That's really fascinating. And Switzerland, I have been to. I was called there a number of times, and there is a lot in Switzerland, and it's kind of as far as sacred sites go, it's not necessarily as out there, as well known compared to perhaps south of France and England, Glastonbury, and like Egypt and stuff, and Peru even. But there is a lot there. I could tell you that. It was definitely part of my initiations in that time frame for sure. So yes, thank you so much.
It's the heart of Europe, and
True.
It's literally like where timelines collapse. But
oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. The heart of Europe. Wow. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Not to mention it's just stunning. Those mountains are pure majesty. But yeah, then there was a very clear reason I kept being drawn back there. I went 6 times within 1 year, and I never knew why, but like there was always stuff there. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so whew, thank you so much. What a beautiful, powerful conversation this has been. So, is there any last minute little final notes you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Trust yourself. Just trust.
I love that. Yes, that's a journey in itself. Oh. But trust the soul niggles that are calling you to wherever you're being called to, for sure. Well, thank you, Julia. This has been such a magical conversation. And to the audience for tuning in, thank you for being here. And again, please connect with her, follow her on Instagram and on her podcast, the Sacred Travel Podcast, and all of her magic will be linked down below. Onward and upward in love and light as we journey home to the heart of truth, and I will see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Heart of Truth podcast with your host, Amanda Erin Kelly. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating or review on your favorite platform. And if you'd like to go deeper, grab your copy of my book, Let There Be Light, and join us inside the free community in Illumina Wisdom School, where you can access free resources to jumpstart your journey, such as a higher self activation and the Body Temple Blueprint Masterclass, as well as explore the plethora of resources, including Awakening Fundamentals and Luminary, my signature path to wholeness and mastery, to help you become your own healer and sovereign authority. You can access everything at thisartcalledlife.com or find the links down in the show notes below. Until next time, onward and upward in love and light as we journey home to the heart of truth.